Assalamu alaikum. Look around you, look within you. There is a pain many of us carry but seldom voice, the pain of being misunderstood, the sting of rumors, the weight of lies, the isolation of being judged for what you are not. You felt the heat of whispers behind your back, the coldness of false accusations, the injustice of being condemned without trial. You ask yourself, why? I tried my best. I acted with integrity. I spoke with kindness. Yet, they still paint me as the villain. In this moment, I am here to tell you, stop carrying their words as your burden. You are not defined by their narrative. There is a divine court where the final verdict is issued, and the judge is the all-hearing, the all-seeing. Look around you truly, not with a fleeting glance, but with the deep, searching vision of someone who has learned to see the hidden architecture of human interaction. Look at the spaces you occupy, your workplace, your community circles, perhaps even your own family gatherings. Notice the subtle currents that move beneath the surface of polite conversation. The slight pause when you enter a room that was just humming with talk. The carefully averted gaze that speaks louder than a shout. The overly bright smile that doesn't quite reach the eyes. These are the markers, the silent geography of a landscape where your name has been spoken in tones you were not meant to hear. You move through this landscape every day, and you have learned its language, not because you wanted to, but because survival demanded it. You have become an archaeologist of your own reputation, sifting through the faint clues and buried fragments of what people really think, piecing together a portrait of yourself that others have painted in your absence. Now, look within you. This is the harder look, the one that requires courage. Dive beneath the surface of your daily composure, past the I'm fine, and the practiced calm. What do you find there? If we are honest, we find a quiet, often solitary, chamber where a specific kind of pain resides. It is not the sharp, clean pain of a physical wound, but a dull, heavy, pervasive ache. It is the pain of being fundamentally misunderstood. It is the peculiar agony of knowing that the essence of who you are, your intentions, your struggles, your heart, has been translated into a cheap caricature by the tongues of others. This pain is a silent tenant within you. We seldom give it voice, because to give it voice feels like an admission of weakness, or worse, like lending credence to the very lies that cause it. We lock it away, and in doing so, we grant it more power. It shadows our confidence, it whispers doubts into our prayers, it makes us question our own reality. Did I imagine that slight? Maybe they are right about me. It is the sting of rumors that travel faster than truth, morphing and growing with each retelling, until they become a monstrous fiction you are expected to answer for. It is the crushing weight of lies that have been laid upon your shoulders like stones, each one carefully chosen to target your greatest vulnerabilities, your most sacred values. And perhaps most isolating of all, it is the profound loneliness of being judged, condemned, and sentenced for a crime you did not commit, for a person you are not. You stand in the courtroom of public opinion, and the verdict has been reached before you even knew there was a trial. You have felt it, haven't you? The physical heat that rises to your cheeks when you realize a whisper behind a cupped hand was about you. It's a flush of shame that you did not earn, a branding iron of someone else's making. You have felt the coldness of false accusations, a chill that starts in the heart and spreads outwards, making the world seem a hostile, frigid place. It is the cold of being unjustly cast out, of warmth and trust being withdrawn, replaced by a clinical, suspicious distance. And you have felt the profound injustice of it all, the screaming sense of unfairness that knots your stomach. You replay your actions, your words, searching for a foothold for the moment you supposedly went wrong. Why? You cry out in the silence of your own mind. I tried my best. I acted with integrity even when it was difficult. I spoke with kindness even when I was hurt. I extended grace. I assumed the best. I walked the path as straight as I knew how. Yet, despite all that, they have taken the clay of your life and molded a grotesque figure. They have painted you as the villain in a narrative where you were striving to be a hero, or at the very least, a decent, humble soul trying to do right. They have assigned you motives you never dreamed of, attributed to you words you never spoke, and burdened you with consequences for choices you never made. It is a form of spiritual theft, where the currency of your character is stolen and counterfeited. It is in this precise moment, in the thick of that swirling storm of doubt and pain, that I need you to hear this. Not as a distant platitude, but as a foundational truth you must build upon. Stop carrying their words as your burden. Those words, the whispers, the accusations, the cleverly spun tales, they do not belong to you. You did not forge them. You did not breathe life into them. They are not yours to carry, to polish, to fret over, or to let dictate the rhythm of your heart. To internalize them is to volunteer for a sentence you do not deserve. You are not and will never be defined by their narrow, flawed narrative. Their story about you is a small, poorly written draft in a footnote of a much grander text. You are the protagonist in an epic authored by the divine. There exists a court far superior to the fickle court of public opinion. There is a divine court where the scales are perfectly balanced, where every secret is laid bare, and where the intentions of the heart are given more weight than the actions of the limbs. In this ultimate court, the final binding verdict is issued, and the judge is Al-Sami, the all-hearing, who heard not just the slander spoken against you, but also the silent plea in your heart that you could not articulate. He is Al-Basir, the all-seeing, who witnessed not only the act of defamation, but also the private tears you shed in solitude, the moment you chose patience over retaliation, the quiet charity you gave to conceal your own hurt. He is Al-Adl, the ultimate justice. This is the judge who presides over your case. So, place the heavy file of their accusations before him. Let go of it. Your work is not to defend yourself in the alleyways of gossip. Your work is to remain steadfast on the path to him, trusting that in the grand final assembly, your truth will resonate with a clarity that silences every falsehood forever. The ache of injustice is not a modern affliction. It is as ancient as humanity itself, a thread woven into the very fabric of our collective story. And within that story, there are lamps that shine so brightly through the mists of time that they can illuminate our own darkest nights. One of the most profound of these is the story of Yusuf, peace be upon him. It is not merely a tale from a holy book to be recounted. It is a masterclass in divine narrative, a detailed blueprint of how Allah crafts victory from the very materials of despair. When you feel buried under the weight of false speech, remember him. Remember the well. It was not just a hole in the ground, it was the absolute pit of betrayal. Cast down by his own flesh and blood, the people who should have been his protectors. He heard their lies take shape above him. The crafting of the story about the wolf, a fiction so vivid and cold it would shatter their father's world. His own voice, his truth, was swallowed by the darkness of the well. That was the first chapter they wrote for him gone, devoured, a memory. But Allah was already writing the next line. From the depths of that well he was pulled not to freedom, but to a chain of new constrained slavery, then the searing heat of a false accusation, and finally, the grim silence of a prison cell. At every single stage, people spoke against him. His brothers spoke against his character as a son. The wife of Al-Aziz spoke against his honor as a man. Even his fellow prisoners initially saw him as just another forgotten soul in the dark. The world, it seemed, had a consistent verdict: Yusuf was guilty. Guilty of being a bothersome dreamer, guilty of threatening a comfortable status quo, guilty of a temptation he fiercely resisted. The narrative of guilt was airtight. Yet in that prison, something miraculous was unfolding. The walls that confined his body could not confine the gift Allah had placed within him, the ability to interpret visions, to see the unseen patterns in the chaos. It was in that place of utter powerlessness, branded a criminal, that his true purpose began to crystallize. The prison was not his ruin, it was his incubation chamber. Allah was not neglecting his case, he was preparing his evidence. This is the pivotal truth we must sear into our hearts. Allah was writing another story. A story so magnificent, so layered with wisdom and ultimate justice, that the human authors of his misery became mere side characters, their evil plot transformed into the very mechanism of their own redemption and his elevation. Every setback was, in the celestial script, a promotion. The well removed him from a jealous household and placed him on a road to Egypt. Slavery placed him in a powerful home, educating him in statecraft and management. The false accusation and prison purified his public character, forged his reliance on Allah alone, and positioned him as the only person in the land who could solve the kingdom's crisis. Allah was speaking for him, not with words in that moment, but with the relentless, unfolding plot of destiny. He was building a platform so high that when Yusuf finally spoke, his voice would echo through the halls of power and history, and every lie ever told about him would evaporate in the sheer light of his vindicated truth. When the years of preparation were complete, Yusuf stood, not in the rags of a prisoner, but in the robes of the Grand Vizier, the most powerful man in the land after the king. And who stood before him? The very brothers who had orchestrated his downfall, desperate and bowed low. The moment of recognition was not one of vengeful triumph, but of divine completion. Allah had spoken for him. His innocence, his patience, his integrity were now irrefutable historical fact. The lies were not just forgotten, they were made irrelevant, rendered laughably small against the colossal backdrop of the truth Allah had manifested. His speech was one of breathtaking grace. No blame will there be upon you today. May Allah forgive you, and He is the most merciful of the merciful. His words were not of, I told you so, but of divine perspective. The human authors of his pain were now witnesses to his glory, and their own shame was the final silent seal on Allah's verdict. Your life right now is your own unique shura, your own chapter in the grand divine library, and Allah, the Most Wise, is the author. When people speak against you, when they weave their rumors in break rooms, when they craft their narratives on social media, when they dismiss you in meetings, they are, in their arrogance, scribbling in the margins. They are adding footnotes to a page they will never own, in a book they cannot comprehend. They are focused on a single, painful sentence, blind to the epic poem that surrounds it. Your character, your sincere intentions and niwiyah, your silent endurance, your private prayers in the depth of the night, these are written in the indelible, eternal ink of the divine record. That record is what will be opened on a day when all other screens go dark and all whispers cease forever. So let them scribble. Let them obsess over their marginalia. Your story is being written by a hand that turns wells into throne rooms, that uses prisons as preparation grounds, and that transforms the venom of slander into the very proof of your salvation. Your pain is not proof of his absence. It is often the raw material of his greatest work. Trust the author, for he is writing a story for you where the current chapter of hurt will one day be read only as the necessary prelude to a mercy and a victory so profound, you will finally understand why it had to be written exactly this way.